May the 4th be with you all, fellow Star Wars fans. Yes, though I have made my recent opinions on the Star Wars franchise known through a video, I still want this to be a day in which we can celebrate that which made us when we were young. A franchise that once was just a great trilogy of films and then a saga and now has become much more than it ever was envisioned it being, for better or for worse. But we will be looking at exactly what is better and worse, as many years ago, I did a video which was a Star Wars tier list, and then the following year I did an updated version of that. And now it has been 2 years since I have done a Star Wars tier list, and there has been a couple more shows that we are able to now add to the list, and let's just say my opinions on stuff have changed a lot. Mainly just cause, you know, back when I first did those tier lists, I was still in my era of enjoying Star Wars for what it was, and though I still do, I have my nostalgia and love for the movies and the shows and whatnot through consuming a lot of other media that is better. Coming back to Star Wars and watching a lot of the movies again, you know, I have more thoughts for it. And well, what better a day to do this and revisit our revamped, updated Star Wars tier list. We'll be going in order of, we'll do episodes 1 to 9 with the movies, then we'll do Rogue One Solo, the live action shows, and then the animated shows, and then we'll do the games at the end. And then this is our tier list. We pretty much just have simple stuff with A through F, and then True Jedi is our S tier, to throw it back to the Lego games. So yeah, let's get started. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I have watched this movie, I feel like, too much in the last couple years. I saw The Phantom Menace when it was re-released for the 25th anniversary last year. But yeah, it was fun to get to experience that movie in theaters, even though it wasn't the first time. I had also seen Phantom Menace when it was released in the 3D release of the movie years ago. As I will talk with later prequels, ironically enough, I would say Phantom Menace is probably the best of the prequels, which is a hell of a thing to start this list off with. But in previous years, I put it around like the C, kind of the middle of the road. But honestly, Phantom Menace has kind of moved up in my mind, and I will leave it at a B, honestly. You know, watching it, being much older now, it's weirdly more digestible than I feel like people give it credit for. The pod race is awesome, Duel of the Fates, of course, but Liam Neeson carries this movie much more than I realized. Especially, again, once we talk about some later movies, his presence very much is missed going forward. But next up is Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. A movie that I haven't really rewatched that much in the last couple of years, just mainly because, to be fair, it's probably the worst of the prequels. Not even probably, I would say most people would say, yeah, it's the worst. It is the debut of Hayden Christensen, which, again, like I'll talk about with Revenge of the Sith, he does get a lot of shit, and he did for many, many years. And, well, I'm glad that he's at least given another chance to come back and reprise his roles. It's still hard to watch, which a lot of that does have to do with the writing, the choice of delivery of lines, but Attack of the Clones I'm still leaving at a hard D. Some saving graces for it, of course, is Christopher Lee as Count Dooku, the final battle with the clones, the intrigue with that, which of course leads into the Clone Wars. So it's not a hard F for me still, but I would say it's like a D, not a D plus, D minus, just straight D. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Now this is where we're gonna get interesting. Now in previous years, I have shot Revenge of the Sith up to True Jedi. That one is mainly because of nostalgia. But after recently seeing Revenge of the Sith in theaters for the 20th anniversary re-release, that movie does not hold up as well as I thought in my mind. I am speaking as a kid who was raised on the prequels. You know, I was born in 2002. I grew up with prequels being at their height of both excitement and hatred. I would say I was the prime age demographic for these movies when they came out and as I watched them growing up. Now, I will say I did get to experience Revenge of the Sith in a 4DX theater, which, if you don't know what 4DX means, it pretty much means it turns the movie into a ride. Like, it moves to the action and whatnot, so I have a new experience, at least with that movie. However, God, I forgot how long this movie is. It's like 2 hours 20. I just forgot how bad the dialogue is for these movies. Not even just from Hayden Christensen stuff, from all of them. I can't think of really one dialogue exchange in which I was like, ooh. I mean, there's some where it's just like, okay, that was kind of cool. Oh, no, like some of the stuff Yoda says, Palpatine, but a lot of the times when it's two people talking, I'm always just like, oh god, here we go. Like, I'm gonna be honest, Revenge of the Sith does not hold up as well as I thought it did. Growing up and even up to now, I was like, yeah, it's probably my favorite of the prequels, and hell, it's probably one of my favorite movies. It's just so funny seeing people like who are also, you know, going and seeing the re-release, just like, wow, Revenge of the Sith is just one of the best Star Wars movies, just one of the best movies ever. I'm just like, sure, from a production side of things, like the CG is groundbreaking most of the time. The music, of course, John Williams, it's so good. Like, it's some of the best lightsaber fights in all of Star Wars, aside from Duel of the Fates. I'm gonna be honest, everything else surrounding it is so bad. It's through rewatching Revenge of the Sith, I was just like, wow, Liam Neeson really carries episode 1. Just from being able to deliver these lines and have it like kind of feel natural. Whereas Hayden Christensen and even Ewan McGregor to some extent, a lot of them, it's just, it hurts. It's painful. And even Natalie Portman as well. I'm not gonna be super harsh because I will say, like, there's parts of this movie that are obviously iconic as hell and just really good. Obviously, Order 66, Battle of Heroes, like the whole like third act of the movie is unmatched. Dialogue be damned. It's some biblical shit. So I will dethrone Revenge of the Sith from its True Jedi status, but I will leave it in an A because it is a movie that is hard to watch all the way from start to finish, but that does have parts of it that I have rewatched for years, decades at this point, and I will love it for that much, always. All right, the original trilogy. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, or just Star Wars. It is what has started it all. Obviously, we're just gonna leave it in True Jedi. I think I've always kind of put it in A for some reason, but every time I rewatch the first Star Wars, it's always like, yeah, simpler times, you know. Not even simpler times, just it's a story that sets up a lot, but it's also just, you know, so simple, you know. It's like that coming of age, but also hero's journey type thing and rising up against the evil empire. It's kind of what starts that story as well. I mean, it's not the first that's ever done that story, but it kind of set a precedent for that kind of story, and we wouldn't be here if it weren't for it, and it deserves to be there. But all right, speaking of a movie that should be in the top tier, Star Wars The Holiday Special. I mean, I'm not gonna meme, but you know, obviously. Disney, please. George Lucas's opinion doesn't matter anymore. Disney has made that plenty clear. Bro's a billionaire, just let us have the Holiday Special. I know it exists still, somewhere in some far-off archive, despite George Lucas buying every copy and incinerating it. At this point, just do it. Do a Holiday Special re-release or a remaster. Fans want it. I mean, fans want it in theory, but whether or not they actually will watch it, it's a different matter altogether. Just put it on Disney Plus. Complete it all. It's so bad. But at the same time, without the Holiday Special, we don't have The Mandalorian. We don't have Boba Fett. We don't have any of these other stuff that have borrowed from it. Life Day, all these like different memes. I have a freaking Life Day shirt. Not saying it's good, but you know, at this point, there are people who are gonna live and die never knowing the existence of the Holiday Special, and that saddens me. But ayo, maybe someday. All right. The Empire Strikes Back. Obviously, no contest for where that goes. It is the pinnacle of everything Star Wars. The perfect building off of the first movie, setting up so much. The heroes losing, which is something I feel like you rarely saw in movies back in this day and age. Amazing music, amazing fights. I mean, not amazing fights, but I mean, Luke versus Vader is a decent fight. I would say of the original trilogy fights, it's one of the best. One of the biggest twists in cinema history. I am your father. And yeah, what more needs to be said? Return of the Jedi. Now, I know a lot of people have gripes with Return of the Jedi, justifiable gripes, I feel like. But for me, Return of the Jedi, I've always held it up there as one of the best. People like give shit for the Jabba's palace sequence and stuff, but I don't know, as a kid and even now, I always love it. Seeing Luke come in, just be like, you will give Captain Solo to me. Just kind of seeding early on in the movie, just like, oh, Luke's kind of going dark a little bit. And then it kind of goes into the very end of the movie. It's just like, oh, will Luke turn? Will he not? And just how it ends. The end of this movie is truly just like, yep, that's the end. Nothing else. The shows can like, yeah, whatever, Thrawn afterwards, whatever. It's the end of the movies, even though there's more that we'll obviously talk about. Just a fun end, just the end of Vader's story as well. Like, you know, just, it always hits me every time, just having Luke and his father just like, tell your sister you were right about me. And just Vader's redemption, just him taking the Emperor and yeeting him into the cavern for him to be dead forever. It's the ultimate comeback, because, you know, you have the first movie, they win, Empire Strikes Back, they get their balls kicked in, Return of the Jedi, we come back and we win. And just the perfect trilogy, man. All right, now that we're done talking about an amazing trilogy, let's talk about the sequels. All right, The Force Awakens. I have sung The Force Awakens praises a little bit in the past couple of years. Mainly just talking about just, you know, when it was coming out, the hype was there. Especially for myself, being a ripe 13-year-old boy. That sounds weird. I mean, this year, it will have been 10 years since this movie came out, which is wild. And you know, seeing it in theaters, I saw it like probably 4 or 5 times when it came out. It's fun. Like, even on its own, just having Force Awakens, it's an alright movie. It's kind of hard to rewatch, you know, having the entire rest of the trilogy, just because it's like, wow, this movie sets up so much and does nothing with it. A lot of it is a reskinned A New Hope, but that's basically all of the sequels. Han Solo's death scarred me for a good while when I was that young seeing that, but looking back on it now, it's just like, ah, Harrison Ford, there's your out, even though they still got you back for the last movie. I leave it honestly at a C tier because I enjoy watching episode 1 more than Force Awakens, just because, you know, episode 1's like, oh, so much setup, and it actually goes somewhere, whereas this does not. Force Awakens is alright. But now, The Last Jedi, arguably the most diverse in terms of opinions, in terms of Star Wars movies, just because I have seen both sides of the pendulum. I have heard a plethora of people say it is one of the worst movies ever made, and I've also heard people say that it is one of the best. And honestly, I've heard very few on the in-between say like, it's alright. As a kid, which this came out in 2017, so I was 15 when this movie came out. Like, when I first saw it, I was like, that was cool. Alright movie. Even that young, there was a part of me that was like, I don't feel like I liked it as much as the first one. A lot of cool ideas, it's just, you know, subverting expectations. Ooh. The throne room fight is whatever. Like, for years now at this point, just like, oh, the throne room fight is, again, with that, I've heard it say it's one of the best fights, also one of the worst fights. Like, when you frame by frame it, yeah, it's really bad. But also, I say, just like, when you frame by frame really any lightsaber fight, when you look at it, it's just like, oh, they could have stabbed them there. Honestly, if you watch the fight at like 2 times speed, I'd say it's better. I feel like it could have been the ultimate setup to have episode 9 be a really good movie, but they just decided to do damage control instead, which ended up making it even worse. I don't even know how I feel about this movie anymore, because I haven't rewatched it that much. I would say in total, I've watched this movie maybe 4 times in total. 2 of those times were in theaters. I don't rewatch it as much as episode 2, but I also don't hate it as much. Honestly, I'm just gonna leave it at D. I'll leave it on the same level. They're both the middle point in the trilogy that are sort of just getting us from one point to another, though I would say Attack of the Clones is less offensive than what The Last Jedi is. Speaking of offensive, The Rise of Skywalker. I hate talking about this movie. Ironically enough, even though Holiday Special and Rise of Skywalker are in the same tier, I would rather watch the Holiday Special. It is such an insult of a movie. First time watching it, it said a lot, where it's just like, when we went and saw The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, it was always just, you know, people in the auditorium just like, woo, yeah, Star Wars, bah, ba-da-da. But not for this movie. No one clapped for this one when it started, because we were just like, yep, let's just get this over with. I don't think any of us were prepared for how bad it would be. I genuinely do look forward to seeing what people think about the sequel trilogy after a couple more years specifically. Once we're in like 2030 and it's been 10 years since The Rise of Skywalker came out, people are, you know, they're talking just like, oh yeah, you know, the prequels, it's been like 20 years since came out and people praise them. I am not one of those people, at least not anymore, that say that the prequels were masterpieces. They're not. They're fine movies. Like, they were definitely groundbreaking in terms of special effects and whatnot. It at least wasn't a slap in the face to what Star Wars is. I am not one of those people anymore that's just like, oh, George Lucas is such a visionary and whatnot. It's like, he can come up with ideas, but George Lucas, like, he can direct it, but he needs people to tell him no. And honestly, the same thing was applied to the sequels, where I feel like more people should have been telling Disney no, but who can tell Disney no, because they are the all-powerful warlords. We're done with that. No more sequels. Now we get the spin-off movies. Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. See, it's been a while since I've seen Rogue One, just because I'm kind of waiting for Andor to be done, because I want to do like, oh yeah, Andor, and then watch Rogue One, because supposedly season 2 is going to end and be like, all right, we're going to go from Andor right into Rogue One, which we'll see. Which obviously I'll talk more about Andor in a minute. But Rogue One, people praise this movie endlessly, and I've never really been one of those people. Like, even when I first saw it, of course, the Darth Vader hallway scene. Awesome. Great scene. One of the best ever, I would say. However, I don't think that speaks to the movie as a whole. I just think they were shooting themselves in the foot by making this a movie where we're meeting this crew for the first time and we're supposed to care about each of them and their dynamics and whatnot. There were some deaths that I cared about much more than others. Again, it's been a long while since I've rewatched the movie as a whole, which I may have more of an opinion now after all these years Wars, but the movie at least had a style to it. It was unlike any Star Wars movie we had had previous. And I'm glad that Andor has a similar style, just filling in that gap of why it was so easy to blow up the Death Star. I know a lot of people will immediately put it in S or A, but honestly, I'm leaving it in B for now. It has room to grow. Again, I haven't rewatched it that much in the last couple of years, and again, the first time I saw it, I was kind of just like, yeah, it was fun. I didn't have a bad time watching it. Rogue One's always one of those movies that I kind of forget about, but we'll see how it stews after finishing Andor. But next, Solo, A Star Wars Story. Again, another one that I don't rewatch that often just because, again, I don't really like it that much. This is fully one where when I saw it for the first time, and in subsequent times that I have rewatched it, And again, it's another movie where a lot of people really praise it. And again, in my opinion, it's a movie that I really forget exists. So there's a nice gap here in C tier, and I think I'll leave it there. It's just kind of a safe movie, you know? There's some stuff in it that's just like, sure. And then there's some stuff where it's like, all right, that was cool. I'm looking forward to when the Maul Shadow show comes out, and hopefully it ties some stuff in there, like maybe Kira will be in that series, or maybe they just will forget about it. I don't know anymore. But moving on, now we go to the Disney Plus shows. Oh boy. First up, The Mandalorian. This is all 3 seasons that have come up until now. Again, like with everything else that starts, you know, it's just like, wow, this was solid. But in every subsequent thing that's come out, it's just been like, I've made my opinions known about Mandalorian, just like season 1, I feel like is solid. It's a gritty kind of bounty hunter story. I wish it was a little more on like the actual bounty hunter side of it instead of just the child fetch quest. And then season 2, I have said before, despite season 2, I think a lot of people loving, I just think is an Easter egg fest that is too much. Every episode of season 2 was something where it's just like, oh my god, glorp shitto. And even the Luke Skywalker scene at the end of season 2. Of course, it was one of the best things ever when it came out, but of course, just stewing on it over the years, it's just kind of like, yeah, it's cool, and it's just like, yeah, this is what Luke in the sequel should have been. When you look at the rest of all the other shows, just like, all right, cool, Luke decided to show up for this, but not in Ahsoka when Thrawn and the Empire are an active threat. And then season 3, god, I mean, you can see my reaction to season 3 as it was coming out. I was excited till I wasn't. The Mando Grogu movie is gonna come out, and it's gonna be whatever the fuck it's gonna be. I just feel like a lot of the Mandalorian's potential has been squandered. There was a time when it was in True Jedi and even A, but honestly, I think I gotta leave it at a B. It's gone down a rank with each season, really. It's like season 1, True Jedi. Season 2, A, kind of higher A, and then season 3 dropped to a B. And even with some of the Book of Boba Fett stuff, which we'll talk about in a second, like there's so much with the Mandalorian's character. Now it's just kind of like, yep, it's him and the child doing their antics. The Book of Boba Fett. Once again, squandered potential. I mean, that's what we're going to talk about with both of these next shows. Even still to this day, I've talked about how I don't think it's the worst show that Disney Plus has made. There was a lot there. I actually did enjoy the stuff with Boba Fett in the desert with the Tusken Raiders, despite the fact that I don't really buy the fact that Boba has so much love for them in his heart, despite them using him as a slave and they nearly killed him and all this stuff. But you know, perspective. All the stuff with him being like, oh, I'm the new Daimo of Tatooine, because why not? Stuff was happening. There was no real explanation for anything. It just was kind of like, let's just have Boba do cool things, but also not be anything like the Boba that you know from Empire Strikes Back or even Clone Wars. I remember when Book of Boba Fett was coming out, they were just like, we're finally going to be combining like everything you know about Boba from Clone Wars, from the original trilogy, and just like, I felt like this was just nothing. Bringing in Cad Bane at the last minute, why should I care? Despite the 6th episode being like one of my most raw reactions to anything, god, those were simpler days. I don't hate the Book of Boba Fett, but I will leave it at a D, just because I have not rewatched it at all, really. Even the good parts of it, which is, you know, the last 3 episodes, which are Mandalorian 2.5. It's a show that will fade into obscurity. But I do feel bad for Tamira Morrison, because I love Tamira Morrison. He loves what he does, and I wish he would get more, and like, you know, I wish he would get to reprise Boba properly. But maybe in, you know, the Mando Grogu bullshit. Alright, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Before we talk, yep. This show's biggest problem, despite its writing, its everything, it was just directed so bad. It felt like a Star Wars fan film, which would work if it was like uploaded to YouTube and was like half as long. It was a Disney product. It looked like shit. Despite this being something that was like 10 years in the making, they're like, oh, we're gonna do an Obi-Wan movie, but maybe not. Like, oh, we'll do a trilogy. And it's like, nope, okay, we'll make a series. And then it's just like, it was just such a slop of a mess. Big ups though to Hayden Christensen Hutchinson and Ewan McGregor, they were the best parts of it. And obviously James Earl Jones, rest his soul. Also Kid Leia, may that actress have a fruitful and great career. It's just the story of it. It made it even worse, like watching Revenge of the Sith, knowing what the show does to Obi-Wan's character. He couldn't kill his friend. He just left him there to die. And just like, you know, Yoda being like, oh, how much training do you have? And then like 10 years passes and then Obi-Wan's job is to protect Luke in case anything happens. So he has to be there on Tatooine ready to fight. And what happens? One, he's out of tune with the Force for some reason. So even if he does fight, he gets his ass kicked, which he does. And then what else does he do? He leaves Tatooine. And what happens? An Inquisitor does come to the homestead and he's not there to protect it. I kind of get, because like we had Book of Boba, which, you know, it was all on Tatooine, and even Mandalorian had some Tatooine stuff. It's just like, we're done with seeing Tatooine, let's go somewhere else, which we do. If anything, Book of Boba should have been a show where we went anywhere else but Tatooine. And Obi-Wan Kenobi should have been the show where we were on Tatooine, because it made sense. He's not supposed to leave. It's such a spit in the face to the character of Obi-Wan. And then just to like have it by the end, he suddenly has all his powers back and he's just kicking the shit out of Vader. God, that fight as well. Good lord, that could have had the potential to be a great lightsaber fight if I could see it. Shaky cam galore. The color grading was horrible. The music. You had John Williams composing the show. Why was there no John Williams music? Like no Imperial March, no Battle of Heroes. Like you could have had an awesome like rearrangement version of Battle of Heroes where it was like the same melody, but like it was a little different because it's like they're older, it's later, but no, some forgettable themes. I'm happy that Ewan McGregor is like, yeah, let's do more, but God, I do not want to see more. I'll happily see him do more as Obi-Wan, like maybe some flashback stuff, but no more of this. I want to forget this show exists. And just the fact that he leaves Vader again. Like, I get in Revenge of the Sith why he doesn't kill Anakin. It's his friend, it's his brother. He'll just leave him to burn. It's just like if he dies, he dies. Because by all accounts, he was just like, he's dead. I'm not going to deliver the killing blow. It made no sense for the end of the show that he leaves him again. By that point, it's just like, yep, my friend's truly dead. Like everything else that happens in the years prior, it's like, could have been stopped if Obi-Wan just killed him there. But no, he leaves him again. You know what, let's talk about Ahsoka first, because we'll just ride this hate train. It's a show that I don't hate as much as Boba Fett or Obi-Wan, so honestly, I leave it in C tier. I would say it's just as much of a character assassination. Again, great ideas. This galaxy beyond our own. Bringing in Thrawn, Balin's skull. Great character. Or I should say great foundation for a great character. Dave Filoni loves to have ambiguous writing, which as a kid, I was like, cool. But now I'm just like, fucking explain shit, dude. Just do anything with these characters that you introduce. Sabine's whole Force-sensitive bullshit, don't care for. And now Thrawn's back, so that renders everything that was done at the end of Rebels absolutely inert. So it's set up for whatever the Heirs of the Empire movie is gonna be, if it ever even fucking happens at this point. I would laugh if we've gone through all these years of like, oh, the Mandoverse is building towards this movie with Thrawn, and it just doesn't even happen. I want it to happen just so I can point and laugh and just be like, oh my god, this sucks so much. It's just one of those things where it's just like, none of this matters because, you know, it's just showing what will eventually kickstart the First Order, I'm sure. Again, the one episode that was all I wanted, which was like the Clone Wars stuff, even that was like, looking back on it, what was the point of that? Just for Ahsoka to become Ahsoka the Grey, Ahsoka the White. Moving on, the only good Disney Plus Star Wars show, Andor. I intentionally waited to do this video until there was a couple more episodes out for season 2. As of recording this, there have been 6 episodes. Half the show of season 2 is done now, and there's still half to go. And I will say, had it only been the first 3 episodes of season 2, I don't know if it was looking good. Having seen the current 3 episodes, it's bumped back up. Well, I mean, before we talk about season 2, season 1 of Andor, god damn, that is just some quality television. It doesn't feel at all like Star Wars, and that's what's great about it. All those different arcs that like they feel detached, but they build off of each other, going from one story to the next, all culminating in the end, just fight the Empire. Whereas what they tried so hard to get was fuck the Empire. Great stuff. Season 1, true Jedi, despite it having nothing to do with Jedi. Season 2, so far, if it was just the first 3 episodes, low B, but this current arc, which I won't talk too much about, just in case someone hasn't seen it, just because it's recent, it's pretty good so far. I'm still waiting just for that moment though with the show where it's just like, yes. Because so far with the show being Cassian Andor's show, season 2 hasn't had that much with him. This recent arc has had more, but it's kind of just been about Mon Mothma and a lot of the other characters, a lot more with Luthen, which I mean, I have enjoyed. Of course, there's been a plethora of controversy already because, haha, especially with episode 3, which I'll spare you the details if you don't know, but I will still leave Andor at True Jedi. It's just so good. Also, just out of spite for everything else that Disney Plus has spewed out with its garbage shows. Finally, a show with a vision, clear direction, good tones, production-wise, acting, all of it, like it's great. It spits in the face of everything Disney Plus has made before, and I love it. It actually makes the Empire feel like a threat again, unlike everything else that has tried to depict it. All right, The Acolyte. Moving on. Animated shows. We're gonna kind of speed through this just because it's kind of getting longer than I would have liked. All right, Star Wars Clone Wars. Genndy Tartakovsky's Star Wars Clone Wars. Solid A. My only gripe is how short it is. I would love for them to get Genndy back to do more of this. Though parts of it could be seen as more canon than the other, who cares, man? It's just cool. It's a great style, great stories. The way I looked at it, it's like a visualization of people telling the story of Clone Wars in the world of Star Wars, where these big scale battles. My favorite one is where you see the Battle of Dantooine with Mace Windu, but you kind of see it from the perspective of this kid, so it's like Mace Windu single-handedly wiped out this army of 1,000 battle droids without a lightsaber. You know, all this stuff was like, you know, Kit Fisto battling in the water, Anakin and Obi-Wan facing a fortress on their own. It's just these great stories. I would love for them to do more of those. Get Genndy back, be like, hey, we'll give you a fat paycheck if you do a couple more episodes of this, just like some more fun stories. That'd be great. Fuck Visions, do more of this. Star Wars Clone Wars Volume 3. Great stuff. But speaking of Clone Wars, Star Wars The Clone Wars. A show that I have praised pretty much my whole life. Since 2008, it's what made me who I am. Honestly, without The Clone Wars, I don't know if I'd be as big of a Star Wars fan. And you know, at the very least, despite all the shit I will give towards other Star Wars products, The Clone Wars now and forever will be in my heart and soul. Especially with like me and my friends when we talk about it. Though I will say, in recent years, rewatching some of the Clone Wars, it doesn't hold up as well. Certain parts of it. It's not as consistent with itself, I feel. That's a topic for another day. Despite it all, though, I still hold it in True Jedi just for what it means to me and what it means to just my friends and everyone. Just nostalgia goggles. Yes, it made Darth Maul my favorite Star Wars character of all time. It has some of my favorite moments, favorite character stuff, favorite arcs. Umbara, Mandalore, Ahsoka. Is it the peak of Star Wars? No. But it did sort of give some saving graces to the prequels, at least filling in some stuff. Not that it really helps, because really when you look at Anakin in the Clone Wars and Anakin in the movies, they're really two different characters. But despite it all, having it as its own detached thing, honestly, it's kind of what spurned my love for anime, just because it's Star Wars in this animated style, but like, it's cool. It's fun. I have fun watching it. I will at some point do a series dedicated to the Clone Wars on this channel. I have ideas for it. We'll get to it. But for now, it stays in True Jedi just for the heart of it. All right, Star Wars Rebels. Honestly, Rebels, I will still leave in a solid A. I would say it's at like kind of the top of it. It's like in between A and True Jedi. I don't have as much nostalgia for Rebels as I do for Clone Wars. It does kind of suck because I feel like a lot of Rebels' success is carried because of the Clone Wars, just because of certain stuff in it. It's a fun idea to have someone watch Rebels who hasn't watched Clone Wars. I mean, it would be kind of fun to do it that way, where it's like you watch Rebels, see the story there, then you go back to the Clone Wars. Though it would be kind of fucky even that way, but let me cook. Rebels, it's a great story. Like, it's not doing an anthology type story as the Clone Wars does. Like, you know, it's like we have our crew at the very beginning and then we're just gonna go all throughout. It does have some of my favorite stories in all of Star Wars. You know, it introduces the Inquisitors. I love Kanan. I love seeing Ezra's story. You know, he matures most of the time. Again, one of those cases where I see Sabine in this show and I see her in Ahsoka and I'm just like, two different characters. Same with Ezra as well, and same with Ahsoka. I mean, you don't have the Ahsoka show without Rebels, which is fun. I mean, it gets more people to go and watch Rebels and give it a chance, because if you watch Ahsoka, you're not gonna know what the fuck is happening. It's harder to kind of rewatch Rebels just because it's kind of more of a commitment than Clone Wars, because Clone Wars, you can kind of just pick an arc and start and it works. Whereas Rebels, you kind of have to pick a season really to start from, but I still love it for what it is. I like the family story that it does, and it did have those points where I cried. Star Wars Resistance, don't care. Your kids might like it. Bad Batch, I mean, the show's over now. I never really cared much for Bad Batch. Didn't care for them in the Clone Wars arc that they were a part of, and I didn't care much for their show in general. I liked at least seeing just, you know, the Empire so soon after the Clone Wars, them getting started, you know, seeing the introduction of stormtroopers and just, you know, the phasing out of the clones. It's just, again, another show that I feel like was setting up a lot and could have done a lot, but didn't really do anything. Some characters that I expected to die didn't really die, and now it's just kind of like, well, all right, where are they gonna be? I leave Bad Batch at a C. For the memes, I've left it at B for Bad Batch, but a show that's gonna be forgotten to time. All right, the Tales of the Jedi. A solid A just for the stories it tells. I mean, A just for the Dooku story alone. These Tales of stories, I feel like, don't take advantage of the title that they are. Tales of the Jedi. It's about two people who are no longer Jedi. And then same thing with Tales of the Empire. It's about two people who aren't really a part of the Empire. And then that's my fear when we get to Tales of the Underworld, which will be coming out eventually. I would have preferred that to be called Tales of the Bounty Hunter, since it's going to be about Cad Bane and Ventress. Because Underworld, I feel like, could have been more about crime organizations and stuff. But anyway, Tales of the Jedi, I don't feel like we needed to see Ahsoka's birth, but sure. The middle episode for the Ahsoka stuff was cool, just like, you know, showing the move that she learns, which then ties into, you know, when we see it in the Clone Wars. And then the last episode with her and that Inquisitor, just don't worry, we're not retconning the Ahsoka novel, even though that is not at all what happens. But the Dooku story was cool. I wish it was longer. Just seeing those parts of his story, just, you know, Dooku when he's a Jedi, but showing a little bit of that darkness, and when he's starting to have doubts in the Order and just what they do, and then when he's left, and then when he's fully gone to Sidious's side. It makes me look at Dooku differently. It's just a shame that when you go into Clone Wars, he's just such like a mustache twirly villain with not really that much depth of character. I mean, you do have that in the movies, mainly in Attack of the Clones, just 'cause Revenge of the Sith, he dies. It's fun seeing him with Qui-Gon. It's a shame that we'll probably never really get much more with Dooku. Tales of the Empire. I did not care much for Morgan and Barriss. We've waited 10 plus years to see what happened to Barriss. Oh, she did become an Inquisitor and then immediately left. And now it's just a case of an open-ended story. Is she alive? Is she not? I hope she is at this point. It's just one of those ones where it's just like, why did Barriss become just this monk? Did we forget where her story ended? It just felt like this thing just like, oh, see, there's still goodness in Barriss. It felt like someone made that story only seeing the Geonosis part of Barriss's arc and not watching the end, where it's just like, did we forget that Barriss fought Anakin and fully was just like, I think these red lightsabers suit me. She bombed the temple. People died because of her. And then we go into Tales of the Empire. It's just like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, she's going into the dark side. That could have been fun. See, it could have been a cooler thing, you know, the Barriss Anakin rematch, but she fights Vader and dies because, yeah, that would have been a better end to her story, in my opinion. Instead, it's like, it's also trying to give character to the fourth sister, which didn't really care about that background character. And it also gives Siege just like, oh, her and Ahsoka are still in contact. Again, wasted potential. I leave it at D. Can't believe I stayed up till midnight waiting for that to be released. That's what I did for May the 4th last year. All right, Star Wars Visions. I still have not seen season 2. I am glad to hear, though, that they heard just like, oh, people didn't really like that, because the whole thing was like, Visions, it's a Star Wars anime. So what did we do for season 2? Not that. So at least for season 3, they're going back to that. I'll see that at some point. But even still, just having season 1, it's a fine C. Some stories are better than others. Most of them are forgettable. I would say the one is like the first episode with like the black and white Ronin style was cool. I liked the one with the old guy fighting the master and his kid, and I can't really remember the rest. Oh yeah, the one with like the trigger one, the kid and his sister fighting in space. And then the 2 games, which aren't on this list, but Fallen Order, B. I mean, you don't have Jedi Survivor without Fallen Order. B, just because Jedi Survivor is still true Jedi, in my opinion, just because it's a phenomenal game. You can watch my series that I did. Gameplay's awesome. Story, honestly, story, whatever. For gameplay alone, because it's a video game, I loved it. Loved the world exploration you can do. The customization's great. The combat. And even still, Fallen Order had its level of fun to it as well. It's just, it's a little more contained than what Survivor is. I never played Outlaws, and I haven't seen Skeleton Crew. So if you're wondering where those are, I'm just not going to put them on the list. So this is our updated Star Wars tier list. Definitely stuff has shifted. Some stuff hasn't really moved that much, but let me know what your list would be down in the comments below. Like, if what you think about where I I've put certain things. I am kind of planning to make some more Star Wars stuff this year, mainly some Clone Wars stuff, but of course I'll always have my shorts that I upload, you know, did you know? Hope you'll have a fun May the 4th. We're either rewatching some Star Wars stuff or doing whatever. I don't know what I'm going to be doing, probably still working. It's always fun to rethink about Star Wars, even though the majority of this video was me shitting on it. My younger self would call me blasphemous, but I would call myself grown up. But either way, this was my updated Star Wars tier list. Join me for many other videos of the sort, the future tier list videos and Star Wars stuff, reactions, reviews, gameplay, and everything else will be coming out soon. So thank you all for joining me on this. I'm Lancer. Thanks for watching. May the Force be with you.